Hello, beautiful souls. Thank you so very much for dropping by this video. If you see my neck go like this, it's because my camera is reversed, and so it kind of, it's very trippy. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Regardless, a warm welcome to anyone who's new to this channel. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This channel is about the difference between actual non-duality, often known as Advaita Vedanta, and nonsense, modernized non-duality called Neo-Advaita. So, very interesting. I just had a very interesting experience today. I attended a webinar of a traditional Advaita teacher. I have some association with her. Interestingly enough, I heard about her guru a couple of years ago. He's actually very famous, Swami Dhyanananda, considered one of the great Advaita Vedanta teachers of the 20th century. A great humanitarian as well. He created a lot of charities and just profoundly respected man. And so I went to a webinar today of one of her students who is also a Swami, technically a Swamini, because she's a female Swami, which is a fancy way of saying monk, priest, teacher. The first thing she said after she was introduced was, "This teaching is not my teaching. I am passing along what my guru taught me." In essence, she said, he passed along what his guru taught him, all the way back to Adi Shankara. She just very clearly said, this is not my teaching. This is not my teaching. This is the teaching. Now, this can sound a little conservative, right? Because it sounds like this structured institution, and it is and isn't. It is very structured on one level, and within that structure, there's a lot of freedom. And you know, before my whole journey with Neo-Advaita, I would have been like, so what? You know, like, what's the big deal? And now, having made it out of Neo-Advaita, and now trying to literally put myself back together, I won't listen to any teacher who's not part of a traditional lineage. I won't even talk to anyone about non-duality unless they have a traditional teacher, because as soon as someone steps outside the tradition, it becomes just absolute nonsense. There are exceptions. I've met individuals here and there, but for the most part, like, it's just crazy. It's just utterly crazy. And so part of why it's so crazy is because the process of Advaita Vedanta is as delicate as brain surgery, if not more delicate. And the level of training that is required is actually more than a brain surgeon. There's lots of brain surgeons out there all around the world. Who knows? Thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. Or let's just say surgeon. Maybe brain surgeon is too specific. You know, there's probably 500,000 to 1 million surgeons but to really do Advaita Vedanta properly, the level of training is off the charts. And before I went through everything I went through, and before I began to study actual Advaita Vedanta and study some of the Sanskrit, and study first on my own and then under the guidance of a traditional guru, I would have been like, whatever, you know, you can just pick it up from a book. Well, of course, in my Neo-Advaita days, I'd be like, just inquire. You know, once I exited, I was like, oh, I can learn this through a book, but I am utterly convinced now that if anyone wants to follow an actual non-dual path, they just you need a qualified teacher. And it's very tragic that I even need to say this. It's very tragic that people's lives are getting literally destroyed by these unqualified, non-traditional teachers who cannot say, this is not my teaching. This is the teaching that goes all the way back to Adi Shankara. And for those of you who don't know, Adi Shankara was the first Indian sage philosopher to not the first to talk about non-duality, but the first to really put it all together, to take all these different pieces of Vedic thought, Vedic being the philosophies of India, and create a cohesive system that could lead one to this transformation. So another thing that was so interesting about this webinar is most of it was not about non-duality. I've experienced this with her before, and I've experienced this with other traditional teachers, is first comes the foundation. Sure, you can mention some of the non-dual philosophy, but after that comes the foundation. There's all these foundational practices. I won't say all, like there's thousands, but there's a solid foundation that needs to be built philosophically, not non-dual philosophy, but like life philosophy, like how to be a balanced human being and how to learn to manage your mind. And so that's most of what this webinar was about. It was amazing to hear an Advaita Vedanta guru, a bona fide Advaita Vedanta guru, not talk about non-dual philosophy, but to talk about all the things that are necessary to support, could say the quest for self, or however you want to say it, the non-dual journey. And of course, the Neo-Advaita teachers would be like, there is no journey, just inquire, or there is no journey, you're already. And so that's what I'm saying, and what I've been saying from the beginning is it's two different teachings. It's two absolutely different teachings. Where it gets tricky is Neo-Advaita falsely claims it's the same teaching. Like, what I'm teaching is what Ramana Maharshi taught, and all the sages of the ages have taught. That's simply just not true. Yes, the Neo-Advaita teacher will take a quote. They'll take a few quotes and then distort it so deeply that it has nothing to do with the actual teaching and is actually dangerous. So I will post a link to this talk. I think there will be a link available for it soon. And let me see if there's anything else I want to share. Yeah, she talked about that she has helped people. She didn't say Neo-Advaita by name, but help people who were sort of falsely taught, or people who picked up meditation too soon. And she pointed out that there's many kinds of meditation, and that to get fixated on one type of meditation can actually be very dangerous and harmful, that it's a very much an individual process. And she used the word holistic to describe, and she talked about the essential of Dharma and the essential of having a relationship with Bhagavan, which I've said it before, can be translated as God, but that's not exactly what that means. So you know, I've known some of this intellectually for a while. Some of this I've learned from her, but just, in an hour and a half setting to have her give an overview, it was kind of stunning. The radical difference between what all these sages have been teaching, this methodology and philosophy and process, versus the fast food church Neo-Advaita version. It's just, it's just two different languages. And Neo-Advaita borrows a few words, so on the surface it can sound like the same language. But there's many more things I could say, but right now I'm just kind of sitting in the not quite shock, but just the wow. Like, I intellectually knew they were completely different, but there was some, and I took a course with this Swamini. There was like 11-week course in Advaita Vedanta, or more like an introduction to Advaita Vedanta. And most of the course was not about non-duality, what we would think of as non-duality. But like I said, it was maybe an hour and 15 minutes to listen to her give the overview. There was something about it. The contrast is so stark. So stark. I don't even have words for it. I'll post that link when I have it. And I wish everyone, God, this camera is throwing me off. I don't know what's going on with this camera. Like when I raise my right hand on my screen, the left hand comes up. So if my motions were a little quirky, it's because it's throwing me off a bit. But thank you so much to everyone who dropped by, and I wish you a beautiful day of recovering from fake non-duality. Blessings.